basketball showing their support for our men and women in uniform. Real uniform, that is. Derrick Rose a little bit too fast for his own good. Nice contest, but a foul by Paul George shaken up as he ran into the stanchion. Yep, this is the most important thing right now.
I'm Harrison.
And I'm So.
And this is the Baker Report. A compound fracture is an injury in which a broken bone pierces the skin, causing a risk of infection. In simpler words, it's what every little kid thought a broken bone injury was until they broke theirs in the 5th grade. I don't know about you guys, but when I was a little kid, the first thing I thought of whenever I heard that an athlete or a friend broke a bone is that his or her whole bone broke and basically snapped in half, protruding from the skin. However, when the broken bone pierces the skin and is visible, it is considered a compound fracture, which is different from a normal fracture. In this situation, you see Indiana Pacers small forward and NBA All-Star Paul George run up to contest a shot from his opponent in a Team USA scrimmage. Notice he lands on his leg awkwardly, which causes his leg to snap and be fractured. His max vertical is just below 36.5 inches, and after jumping to a height near that, he landed awkwardly on his left leg. Watch as George tracks down his opponent, who is running a fast break. His leg fractures upon landing. The reason his leg fractured upon landing was because of the force he exerted on the ground, which, according to Newton's laws of motion, exerted the equal amount of force back onto his leg. The force was absorbed in his lower bone, but was so overwhelming that the bone snapped and could not support him. Newton's third law of motion helps explain why the injury occurred. According to Isaac Newton, the world-renowned physicist, for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. As George's leg impacted with the ground and exerted its force onto the ground pushed back and exerted an equal amount of force on him. As a result, the lower leg bones absorbed most of the force, causing his leg to fracture.
Here's another example of a compound fracture. Watch as this athletic phenomenon that is 6'8" and 300 pounds of pure protein go off for this block against this helpless little Bergen Tech varsity point guard. He sets his sight onto his worthless opponent and starts to accelerate at an average speed of 4.2 miles per hour. That is faster than the average speeds of the two most athletic point guards in the NBA, John Wall of the Washington Wizards, whose average speed is 4.0 miles per hour, and Eric Bledsoe of the Phoenix Suns, who clocks in at 4.1 miles. As the athletic beast accelerates to a certain point, he jumps off his left foot with a force of 2,817 newtons to try to block the layup attempt. But as Newton states in his third law of motion, what goes up must come down. The athletic specimen lands awkwardly onto the ground, with his right leg absorbing most of the force, which causes his tibia and fibula to snap. As you can see, he is in immense pain, and possibly the worst thing about it is that the point guard from Bergen Tech actually made the shot. The recovery time for a compound injury varies from each injury, as no two injuries are exactly the same. The type of break, such as fracture pattern, and the number of pieces broken, and the soft tissue damage are major factors in determining recovery time and proximity to pre-injury functionality. For example, take another scenario in where the same injury occurred, such as the Kevin Ware injury, and compare it to Paul George's. Although both injuries looked fairly similar, if Paul George's break sends the tibia and fibula fragments shooting sideways through his leg a few inches above the ankle, it can threaten a very different set of muscles and neurovascular structures than Kevin Ware's did, coming out of his leg at a different angle and height. There are many risks that can be caused due to this injury, such as jagged bone ends, whose path out of the leg can leave mangled flesh behind. All of these components introduce and exacerbate a variety of risks during recovery, including infection, non-union, malunion, compartment syndrome, neurovascular complications, chronic pain, and arthritis. During this time, the best 3 words an athlete can hear is no ancillary damage, which basically means there's no secondary damage to another part of the body caused by the break. The worst part of this injury, besides the injury and pain itself, is possibly the fact that this injury could have been prevented. Many critics cite that the basketball stanchion at the Thomas & Mack Center were noticeably closer to the baseline of the court than in the NBA. As you can see from the picture, the space between the stanchion and the baseline is about 2 feet closer to what it normally is in an NBA. If the stanchions had been their normal distance, it certainly would have reduced the risk to George and most likely spared him from injury altogether. Other injuries have been caused by an irregularity on the court as well. Kevin Ware's horrific injury happened during the NCAA tournament, where the court is elevated from the bench and crowd. These irregularities are a possible reason to why both of these terrible injuries happened, as they both could have been prevented. All in all, the tibial and fibular fracture was the most common long bone fracture, where 26 per 100,000 people suffer from it each year. Roughly 31% occur while playing a sport, which is only surpassed by motor vehicle accidents at 37%. Although Paul George's rare injury was heart-aching and career-threatening, he did not suffer any ancillary damage and was able to return to the court only 8 months later, and even play a couple games for his Indiana Pacers team to try to help them lead into the playoffs. Which goes to show that Kelly Clarkson was right, and that what doesn't kill you makes you strong.
From the Baker Report, I'm Harrison.
And I'm So.